Hey, a good Erev Shabbos on this post-Thanksgiving Friday, as some would call Black Friday. And as I always like remarking that here we are, we spend Thursday thanking God, and Friday we're back to buying more and conquering more material things. The irony. But Thanksgiving was yesterday, but Shabbos is still coming. As you can see, we're getting ready for a big Shabbos, celebrating the gift of Shabbos. But you know, this week's Torah portion is the Torah portion of Toldot. And in the portion of Toldot, primarily, we read about Isaac. There are many more portions that speak about Abraham and Jacob. Isaac is focused specifically in the portion of Toldot. And one of the things we read about in the portion of Toldot is that what happened was Abraham built wells. He dug wells in the land of Israel so they should have reservoirs of water. There's also metaphorical, spiritual discussions about that, but on the simple level so they could have sustenance. And then the Philistines and Avimelech, they were jealous of Abraham, and they had a fight with Abraham, and they made Abraham move away, and then they covered over the wells. And what we read about in this week's Torah portion is that Isaac went and he redug the wells. And the irony is that, in a certain sense, it's a story of the Jewish people. Sometimes people hate you so much and have so much animosity and so much hate within them that they're ready to spite themselves in order to hurt you. Think about it. What do wells do? Wells give water, give sustenance. So why would the Philistine go and cover the wells that Abraham dug? He wasn't there anymore. They could have used it. But there was so much hate that it was irrational. It's like they say, irrational hate is when you let someone live rent-free within you because you're always thinking about them and angry about them. What does Isaac do? Isaac recognizes that his father was the perpetuator of monotheism in the world. His father changed the whole world. But his job was, after what Avimelech did, was to rebuild. And he took those wells and he redug the wells, the Torah tells us in this week's Torah portion. And he called them the same names that his father, Abraham, had called them. Vayikru lahem shemesh kishem aviyam, like the father. And one of them is, he calls them he calls it Rechavot, that we should expand. And the message was that even after hate and destruction, it's our job to rebuild. And not just to rebuild, and not just to call them the same names, but to expand even greater. And that's what Isaac did. And you think about the times we're living in, and you think about what's going on. What happened on October 7th, the devastation. And then you think about the ceasefire that begun last week in the north. For 14 months nearly, the people in the north have not been home. Their homes have been destroyed, their neighborhoods. There's fires all over, there's destruction all over. And now they have to go. And the story of the Jewish people is to rebuild even stronger, and to expand, and to use our strength to be builders, to build reservoirs of water, sustenance for the next generation. You know, on October 7th, there was this family called the Kedem family. Yonatan, I think his wife's name was Tamar. And Yonatan and Tamar, they lived in Kibbutz Niror. There was an IDF soldier who lived in central Israel, and when he heard what happened on October 7th, he ran immediately to Kibbutz Niror and helped save a lot of Jews and kill a lot of terrorists. But unfortunately, when he came into the home of the Kedems, he found the mother and the father and their 3 little children all suffocated and dead from the fire that the terrorists had made in their house. And not only that, but Yonatan's mother was also killed in her home. And the next day, or a few days later, there was a funeral for all these 6 people, literally a mini Holocaust, a whole family that was wiped out. And this IDF soldier really touched him in a very deep way. And this past week, he had a child, and they had a bris. And at the bris, he named his child Kedem, after the Kedem family. Kedem Tsuri, which means Kedem, which means the east, and Tsuri, which means my rock. And he said and he prayed that his child will be a remembrance for this entire family that was wiped out, and we'll be able to grow up and rebuild. And that Kedem, he will look to the east for hope, where the sun rises, for a new beginning for the Jewish people. And Suri, he will look towards the rock of the Jewish people. God is called the Tzur Yisrael V'Goalo, the rock of Israel and its Redeemer. May Hashem give us that we shall learn from Isaac, and we shall rebuild. And as the people start coming back north, and as the devastation in the south is still there, and we still have 101 hostages that are in captivity, that God should give the Jewish people the strength to dig the wells, but to make them even bigger and more beautiful. And together we will build a better tomorrow for the Jewish people. Shabbat Shalom. Have a great Shabbat.